Ron.
Yeah, well,
Goodness,
I gotta get a word in before we start this, because once we start, you take over everything, and I can't get a word in.
It's not my fault you say silly things, Ron.
Welcome to Big Facts. I'm your host, Aaron Barrison, along with Justin Everett. We're with you every Sunday and Tuesday. Justin and I have a lot to talk about. Some takes happening throughout the week. Obviously, Carson Wentz got traded. We were unable to get on and talk about it. So there's a lot that surrounds this, including what the Eagles do in the draft now. Justin, when I first texted you, I was in Staples, and it hit me, and I just saw the headline. It said, Eagles trade Wentz for a third and a second. And I was like, what the fuck? I start reading into it a little bit more. I text you. I say, brace yourselves. We take a look at everything. Your first thoughts on the Wentz deal to the Colts?
Well, unsurprising, I think, would be number one. I think we all saw this coming. Everybody who lost your shit in the first hour after the story broke, they didn't get a first-round draft pick. They're going to get a first-round draft pick. I listened to Stephen A. Smith's take last night on Carson Wentz and how Jacoby Brissett is not getting a real chance and some of the silly shit that he said.
That's ridiculous.
Indianapolis is intriguing, and it's only because we don't know what Carson Wentz you're going to have. I mean, you have to imagine Frank Reich is going to tap into more of the 2017 Carson Wentz rather than the 2020 Carson Wentz. But still, that team in Indianapolis is a great team, dude. And if Carson Wentz can figure it out, I wish him all the best. I still have monstrous character questions about Carson Wentz. I don't think he's the guy. I think he's soft. I think he's weak. I think he folds under pressure. I think if you put him in an AFC championship game against Josh Allen and Josh Allen scores with 3.5 minutes left on the clock to go ahead by 3, Carson's probably not going to win you that game, even as good as Indianapolis is. I'm happy with what happened. I need to, we spent the last, month and a half. When's Carson going to get traded? Let's just get this over with. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Where's he going to go? What smoke screen is this team putting out? Now I've got to fucking last until the end of fucking April talking about the draft, and I just want to get it all done now.
Yeah, so we had this discussion a couple times, and I know you said that you wanted, and obviously Howie Roseman was going to look for a Stafford-type package, and I said I don't really think there's any other offers on the table. And the reports coming out show that there really wasn't any other offers on the table. Even the Bears offer was not what it sounded like it was going to be. I think it was a lot less, which ultimately is why they ended up taking the Colts offer.
Yeah, but if you vest the outcome, you got close to Matt Stafford. You got a 1 and a 2. I mean, it's close to Matt Stafford.
You're banking on him staying healthy. In 3 out of 5 seasons he has, we can talk about him being injury prone. I think that's somewhat of a false narrative.
I disagree with you 100%. I think he's absolutely injury prone. I think he's made of paper mache.
ACL, concussion, stuff like that. He played through the back
stuff. In his leg. Yeah, but playing through an injury doesn't make you tough. It does make you injury prone because you're hurt all the time.
Well, it makes you tough if you're playing through it. But the point is, he's gone. How are you not tough if you're playing through injuries? Let's not even discuss that.
I'm not saying you aren't tough if you're not playing through injuries. Tough guys play through injuries they can play through because they're smart. You can be tough. Tough exists. What the fuck does tough win you? Not a goddamn thing.
Yeah, agreed.
Tough is useless without intelligence.
Agreed. So the Colts, in their situation, though, have an elite offensive line, a running back,
good offensive line.
Running back who's doing stuff that only a couple people have done in their rookie year, especially towards the end of the year last year. He kind of figured it out.
Very Miles Sanders-y, that running back.
Yeah. And then great defense, so he's going to get a lot of opportunities to score the ball. So really all he has to go in there and do is manage the game. He doesn't have to win them any games. They do need another playmaker on the offensive side of the football. They are going to be the favorites in their division. They have a really good chance to make a deep playoff run if Carson's
not a game manager, though, right? Like, I mean, that's kind of what our beef with Carson was last year. Like, all we were asking for you to do was stop turning the fucking ball over, pay attention, read the defense, make adjustments. You don't need to be Tom fucking Brady, but I mean, you could at least be Ryan Tannehill. And like that, I think is going to be the problem that Frank Reich runs into. He has the team that's built. Like, If I told you Ryan Fitzpatrick was going to be the starting quarterback in Indianapolis, they're probably a 10 or an 11 win team, and they make
they're going to do the same thing they do with Phillip Rivers.
Right. They'll be a good team. They're probably not going to get over the hump, but they'll be a good team. But Ryan Fitzpatrick can be a game manager. We don't know that out of Carson Wentz. All we know out of Carson Wentz is fly by the seat of my fucking pants, take every risk known to man, and have no intelligence in any decision I make, hold on to the ball too long, fumble the football, turn the ball over. That's why I think that this is the reason that package wasn't just what Matt Stafford got. You know who Matt Stafford is. Nobody really knows who Carson Wentz is right now. I mean, we hope that he's the Frank Reich version of Carson Wentz. We're not going to know probably until midway through this season.
So NFL teams have the GMs looking at tape. They have their scouts looking at tape. They have their quarterbacks coaches looking at tape. So it has to kind of tell you that 30 other teams wanted nothing to do with what they saw last season from Carson Wentz if no other offers came in at all and you had to pull the trigger on the Colts offer. So obviously there's two guys in the entire NFL that think that Carson Wentz can play football, and those two guys are the guys that were coaching him in 2017. That's the list ends right there.
Well, now, I don't know that we can say that definitively, but the list of anything close to the moonshot you wanted ends with those two teams for sure. I'm sure. Like, I know you made a post yesterday about Carolina clearing cap space for Deshaun Watson, which I still don't think is going to happen. But I see the reasons why you do. Why the fuck am I going to Carolina if I'm Deshaun Watson? I just don't get it.
They have a good passing game coordinator and offensive coordinator.
And a good coach. I get it all, but it's fucking Carolina, bro. Like, anyway, that's a different point. But I'm sure that there's teams like Carolina with a good coach, like Washington with a good coach, that might have given you a 2 and a 4. You know, you probably could have gotten that from 4 or 5 different teams. But when you're looking for a package that starts with a first round plus, almost all those teams that don't value him as elite are out. So I'm sure that there were other teams out there that would have taken a flyer. But you're talking about taking a flyer compensation. They wanted franchise quarterback compensation. Matt Stafford is a franchise quarterback. He's proven it for the last 10 years. So it's a different comparison because nobody knows what the fuck Carson Wentz is. And I think that's why that trade package from Indianapolis looked the way it did. Because Frank Reich probably said straight up to Howie, I don't know what the fuck he did to this guy since I've left. I know what I got out of him, but look at what he did last year. I don't know if he's fixable. You know, we're willing to take a risk, but we're not going to lay ourselves out there to get burned in the end. And that is what even the guys like Frank Reich that believe Carson could be an elite quarterback, even those guys were hedging off trying to give a first-round pick. So it definitely was. We did not have – there was so much smoke, dude. I mean, since Brian Colangelo came to the Sixers, the front offices of these teams in Philadelphia –
It was a terrible job trying to gain any type of leverage in a trade. I mean, the reports – like the GMs looked at these reports coming out that the Bears and the Colts were bidding and the Eagles are waiting. They were like – like they didn't care at all. There was nothing else that came in. So let's move to what the Eagles should do in the draft. We've talked about this a little bit, and there's some projections that the Eagles might either take a quarterback at number 6, one of 2 that would be available between Trey Lance at North Dakota State, who they're sending scouts out to. They got to do their due diligence. I think that's all smoke and mirrors. I don't think
you don't have to send guys to North Dakota State.
You didn't need to. Any potential top 10 pick, you go and you send guys out every year. And then Kyle Pitts is rumored that is basically a breed of Darren Waller. But the Eagles have so many holes, and they have Dallas Goedert, so why do you take a tight end? So what should the Eagles do with the 6th pick?
Well, it depends on which team you want me to believe we have, because I think you and I have a little bit of a disagreement on what this team is going to look like over the next 2 seasons. I believe that Carson Wentz was the initial shoe of what will be an entire overhaul and rebuild. I think 2 seasons from now, Fletcher Cox is no longer on this team. Brandon Graham is no longer on this team. Obviously, Deshaun just got cut. Alshon's going to get out of here. Lane Johnson, I think, is going to be a sacrificial lamb of trying to get younger and healthier. I believe that this team is in a full rebuild. If I'm right, at number 6, you have 2 options. If you can add 2 more picks in this draft, if you can get a 2nd and a 5th for somebody trying to trade up, let's say from 20, right, to 6. If you can add 2 more picks in this draft, you're going to trade backwards and you're going to get as much talent at the best player available at every single position.
Yeah.
If you're right, where this is more of a, not a rebuild, but a retool, where there's enough good here we can salvage. If you're correct, I believe that there are 2 correct choices at number 6, and I think the only wrong choice is trading out. If you trade out of that pick and you believe you're going to compete, your brain is made of marbles. You're stupid. Like, if you believe that you are a contending team and have a top 10 draft pick and don't use it that year, you're dumb. Nobody in the world would not. This was like Golden State last year. Golden State won healthy. Obviously, Clay got hurt again. Golden State won healthy. He's top team in the league, right? They could have traded out the second spot, no problem. What'd they do instead? They took the best center in the draft. You don't not use that pick if you're a good enough team around it, saying everything goes right. So at number 6, there's 2 correct picks to me. I believe if you stand pat and you're a contender, I think this front office believes in Jalen Hurts. So if we're assuming that Jalen Hurts is our quarterback, we don't need to look at Justin Fields or whoever else might be out there. We're just going to assume Jalen's the quarterback. You can only go Jamar Chase or Patrick Surtain if both of those guys are there. They're the only 2 places that make sense. If you believe in Jalen Hurts and you know now that Jalen Reagor is a 2, you need to go get Jamar Chase. You need to get up and get it received. You need Justin Jefferson. You need a primary target. Or because your defense is Darius Slay, 3 guys on your line, and nobody else, you go Patrick Surtain and really create a lockdown secondary, which is going to take a ton of pressure off of Jalen Hurts as your new starting quarterback. So I think they're the 2 directions you go if you're competing. I still don't believe they're competing. If you ask me to bet the house, I'd say they trade back and they just start stockpiling picks over the next 2 years. That's what my gut tells me. But it's Jamar Chase or Patrick Surtain, I think, at this stage for me. If I was the guy making the decision, they're the 2 directions I go if you believe you've got a team.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fielding offers. And to be honest with you, the only quarterback, if he happens to drop, and right now there's some conversations, and it's not going to happen, but there's conversations about Zach Wilson potentially jumping Trevor Lawrence once everything's scouted and done. It's not going to happen, but if he gets passed up at number 2 and number 3, and he's there somehow at number 6, that's the only quarterback I take. I'm not interested in any other quarterbacks. But there's 2.
What is your fucking fascination with Trevor Lawrence, bro? Is it the Tua factor? Is it because he's exciting and you think he's going to be great?
No,
I haven't seen it.
What I'm saying is he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. I don't disagree with you. I'm not fascinated with Trevor Lawrence. I've seen Trevor Lawrence on 2 big stages get outplayed twice by 2 different quarterbacks. I've seen him win.
If you had the first overall pick and you needed a quarterback, who are you taking? Justin Fields is the better potential. He just is.
I'm not taking Fields there. I think Wilson's got a higher ceiling than almost everybody.
Justin Herbert fucked up this entire draft, bro.
What's that?
Justin Herbert fucked up this entire draft.
Why is that?
Nobody saw Justin Herbert being as good as he was as soon as he was. And now we've got guys like Zach Wilson who are like, oh, look, this guy's going to be fucking fantastic.
Well, they're 2 different quarterbacks. I just think you draft based on ceiling if you're not the consensus number 1 overall. That's all I'm saying. But at number 6, here's the thing. If you're convinced, this is what the Eagles front office is thinking. If you're convinced that Jalen Hurts is the guy moving forward, let's just say Jalen Hurts has an unbelievable season. An unbelievable season on that team with that offense. How many games do they win? 7, 8 if they have a really good year?
Are you telling me like this roster with Jalen, like nobody gets added, nothing changed? Yeah, I mean
7 or 8 wins,
8 or really 9 on the fucking moon.
That's really high. Yeah. So then it's like, okay, this is great. We squeaked out 8 or 9 wins with Jalen Hurts on a rookie contract. We're going to keep this guy. We have a ton of cap space to next year, and now we can really build a franchise. But if Jalen Hurts is who I think he's going to be, which is not an elite level talent, but he could probably be a starter for most of his career, how many games are you going to win? 3 or 4? 5, maybe?
Well,
so my point is, it doesn't matter how many exactly you think, but my point is, if he's great,
you don't think they have a quarterback.
No, I'm saying if he's great, you found your guy, and if he's not, you're going to be in the same position in the draft next year that you're in this year. So there's no reason really to take a quarterback. You either have your guy or you're going to be in the same spot next year.
Well, and again, dude, this is why I say I believe that they're in a rebuild mode. That's why I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy. Now, I probably am a little higher on Jalen Hurts than you are. I'm not a Jalen Hurts as Russell Wilson guy, but I think Jalen Hurts. I put it to you this way: Jalen Hurts is not going to be as good as Russell Wilson, but he'll be better than Cam Newton. I don't know where in between those two he's going to fall, but I agree with you. At the worst, he's going to be a starter. Like, he'll never be worse than Ryan Tannehill, in my opinion. Like, they're just starting quarterbacks.
What is?
I hate him. I can't stand that Ryan Tannehill got called a franchise quarterback on my fucking show. It makes my balls itch. It wakes me up at 3 o'clock in the morning sometimes that somebody told me on my show that Ryan Tannehill is a franchise quarterback.
Unbelievable year last year.
Anyway, I don't disagree with you. I said to you right before we came on, here's my thing with not drafting a quarterback. If you are in rebuild mode, show me the team that started the rebuild with the quarterback and actually accomplished anything. Don't worry about it.
You're talking about keeping the quarterback or drafting the quarterback?
Drafting your quarterback and him being the first stage of your rebuild. I'll save you time. It's never happened. It doesn't happen.
There were two last year.
Who?
Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow.
Bro.
They're in rebuilding mode, and they both got drafted.
Bro, A.J. Green is a top receiver in this league when healthy. Their defense in Cincinnati is not the worst defensive line in the world. They have been bad for years. Yeah. Years they've been bad. Years. When you're beginning a rebuild, the first step normally is offensive line, defensive line. You complete your team with the quarterback. Again, by your metric, if Jalen Hurts is bad, you're going to be right here a year from now. Right. There's always going to be another quarterback. There's always going to be another guy that just came up. That's never going to not happen. So you don't start with the quarterback on a bad roster that's going to get the shit kicked out of him. What just happened with Carson Wentz? You had a guy on top of the fucking world 4 years ago now. 4 years ago, he was on top of planet Earth. He was the best guy, the MVP, the greatest quarterback. Everybody was on top. And the roster broke down so badly around him. Now, again, it's not just a roster. Carson's a soft, weak little bitch. Those two things didn't work well together. But the roster starts to age and break down. And then what happens to that quarterback when they start to lose? His mental fortitude dies. So you don't bring in a kid. Let's make up a world where they could get to 1 and draft Trevor Lawrence. And he was the next fucking Joe Montana, which is bullshit. But say he was. You can't – Joe Montana doesn't do what he does without Jerry Rice, without the offensive line, without the head coach. You don't have most of those things. You don't start a rebuild with a quarterback. The Detroit Lions did that. How did it go? He's gone now, and you won 1 playoff game in 10 years. You don't start rebuilding with quarterbacks.
We can't say there wasn't a lot of teams. I mean, the Falcons did it with Matt Ryan, and I remember when he first got drafted, they went from the #1 pick, and they were a playoff team the next year. So it can happen in certain instances.
They were a top 6 pick team for the 4 years prior. You have to be bad for a while. So what
they had Vic right before that. They were never that bad.
They were bad for 2 seasons after Vic while he was in prison.
The second one they got Ryan though.
Right, but pre-Matt Ryan, they had the roster built for Michael Vick. That was already done. They had a restart. All they needed was a quarterback. That's what you don't start a rebuild with the quarterback. Imagine if we drafted a quarterback today and it took us 6 years to get everything in line. That's, first of all, your rookie deal's gone. Second of all that time and all that, whether it be positive or negative, weighs on that young quarterback. Like the LA Chargers have got to figure it out fast for Justin Herbert because who knows how soft he is in the head. He played an unbelievable season. You've got to figure it out around him within the next 2 seasons. Or, like your point has been since March last year when we started this show, you win Super Bowls with rookie quarterbacks and good defenses. If you want to win with that rookie quarterback and Justin Herbert, you've got 2 seasons to figure it out. Like, that's just what you've got. You can't start the fix with the quarterback. That's why we both agree quarterback's wrong, but for just different reasons.
Yeah. So as far as the picks go, I still am I'm not higher on Devontae Smith. I wouldn't be upset if they drafted either one. I know we have speed guys on the offense. But he does create a lot of separation. You can't go wrong. Either one you go, I'm not going to be disappointed. Would I rather have Chase? Probably. Am I going to be mad if they draft Smith? No. Will I be pissed if they draft Kyle Pitts or a quarterback? Yes, and that's a lot of the reports coming out that they might do that.
Let me ask you this real quick. If you've got Devonta Smith and Patrick Surtain available at number 6, who do you pick?
I pick Smith.
Really?
Heisman Trophy winner. Nobody can
get
stop
it. I get it, but bro, we know how those guys go. I mean, we thought that, Jalen Reagor was going to be Tyreek Hill, and maybe Devonta Smith will. He's Heisman. But
it's really
so much help on this team, man.
Yeah, when I watched, so Waddle's going to be a top 12 pick, by the way, and Devonta Smith. I know Waddle was hurt towards the end of the year, but Devonta Smith had a Heisman season. Some of that is another wide receiver and Mac Jones having a great. They're Alabama. They have all the great skill players, great offensive line. But as a wide receiver, you still have to be open, create separation. He was wide open all the time, and he was faster than everybody on the field, almost in a Tyreek Hill type of way. Yeah. So the combination of separation that he was able to get from anybody. I'm not talking about separation from the guy that was covering him. He was getting double and triple teamed, and he was open by 5 yards. So I'm not going to be mad. I'm not going to be mad if they do that. And it's very, very difficult as a wide receiver to win a Heisman Trophy. So let's not just skip over that. As far as the Colts go, so the trade in this instance, just for anybody that missed it, I'm sure everybody knows by now, the Eagles are going to get a 3rd-round pick this year, a 2nd-round conditional pick next year. So it will be a 2nd-rounder unless Carson Wentz stays healthy. So if he stays healthy for 75% of the games, it goes to a 1st-rounder for the Eagles. If he stays healthy for 70% of the games and they make the playoffs, it still goes to a 1st-rounder. So at the very worst, you have a 3rd and a 2nd, probably a 3rd and a 1st, which overall, I think if you asked us last month, Justin, we were talking about we would have to potentially give up picks to get rid of Wentz. In hindsight, it doesn't look that bad. But then at the last second, Eagles fans just kind of seemed to start grasping at straws like they didn't want to trade Wentz. What was the difference between 4 weeks ago and 3 days ago?
The national and local Philadelphia media just made the story whatever they wanted it. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. It started with, I remember where it started. It started with Doug Peterson got fired. Why is Carson Wentz getting traded? That was where the questions began. When Doug Peterson got fired, it did seem like to most of us that Carson Wentz was going to be the guy. Now, I'm sure 10 years from now, we'll find out all the fucking stories and whoever's tell-all fucking book comes out, the story of how Howie Roseman almost fucking burned down a city, whatever it's going to be called. Maybe Nick Sirianni came in and Carson, just as the diva he seems to be, said, yeah, I'm not interested. I don't care what coach you brought in here. Get rid of me anyway. And it could have happened that way. And the Eagles might not have had a ton of say in what happened. But you could have handled this better. You just could have done better. And I think when you have a team like the Sixers do what they just did, the Sixers just brought in a executive of the year guy. The Sixers just brought in a Hall of Fame coach with a Hall of Fame level coaching staff with Sam Cassell and everything else around.
Coaching staff, great. Yeah.
They brought in depth. You've got some leadership in Danny Green. They remade the face of their franchise and basically came out and stood in front of everybody and said, we got it. We understand. We got our shit together. We're real now. When something like that happens with one of the lower market teams, which is everything but the Eagles, I mean, in Philadelphia, the Eagles are the market. It really makes people question everything else. I mean, I remember a couple of years ago when the Flyers hired Elaine Vigneault. It was right after we won the Super Bowl and Doug Peterson was the greatest coach of all time. And it was, Brett Brown's so bad and all these other things. And look, this team's got it to get at least one team. We always say it, right? At least this team. We got the
Sixers season now, baby.
Right. It's the Sixers season now. We can trust that team. Yeah. I think that level of untrustworthiness that this city has given to its fans, when you see it going very right elsewhere, the littlest bit of wrong on the Eagles gets a magnifying glass put on it and everybody starts pretending. And we do live in a world, bro, we got to understand that's, I don't know if you know this, the Chicago 1st round Tariq Cohen, that trade package that was announced, that was leaked, was some fucking fan-sided blogger guy Never spoke to anybody in Chicago fucking Bears staff or players. It was just a dude that sent a tweet.
Yeah, he went on Madden and and tried to figure out how the money worked, and then put it out.
Let it go through, so now we know it's real.
Yeah. So 3 things really could have happened in the offseason, and the hard part for the Eagles is you're trying to pinpoint where exactly the relationship went wrong, right? Because you can't really pinpoint it. Like there was some
I believe I know exactly the moment it happened.
Okay.
Now there's the moment that it cracked, right? The fracture happened, and then there was the straw that broke the camel's back, or as Al Bundy used to say, the squall that stroked the camel's sack. So there's 2 events. The first event was Nick Foles' statue. No question. No fucking question. You were the franchise face of the franchise. You were fucking won 11 games. You were going to be the next MVP level Tom Brady of the league. You tear your ACL. Your backup wins the Super Bowl. And not months after, not years after, quite literally days to weeks after, they erect a statue. That was the fracture between Carson Wentz and Philadelphia. Not the Eagles, Philadelphia. And then as the injuries happened and as Nick Foles brought us to the playoffs again, and then they draft Jalen Hurts. He has a bad season. 4 games into this season, the fans are screaming for his head. Get him the fuck out of there. We talked about it on this show for 6 weeks before they finally benched him. That was the deal breaker, was Jalen Hurts. So the statue of Nick Foles and the shadow of Nick Foles was the fracture. The break of Carson Wentz in Philadelphia was Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, he obviously was pissed about it. So
see, Jacob, welcome in, Jacob. It's nice to see you, buddy.
At what point do you start? Because the solution for the Eagles after everybody talk. So listen, Roseman has a meeting with Jeff Lurie. Peterson has a meeting with Jeff Lurie. Carson Wentz is walking into Jeff Lurie's office. Everybody, the players that are here, the players that left, the fan base seems to realize that everybody thinks Howie Roseman's a snake and hates that he's in the building making football decisions. But through those conversations, Jeff Lurie decides, well, you know what? I'm actually going to change quarterbacks and get rid of my coach. So at what point do we start? Like, I know everybody wants Howie to go, but does anything really like nothing changes unless Howie goes? But there's got to be a significant amount of blame on Jeff Lurie for the way this is handled, and also leaving the door wide open for Wentz to walk in anytime he wants, feeding that ego of his and making him think that he's going to have some control over the personnel and the say and all those things when you hand him that contract.
Well, Jeff Lurie, I mean, this is his rinse and repeat. This is what's printed on the back of his shampoo. I mean, this is Donovan McNabb, right? Yeah. I mean, I know that you love the guy. And I know that you think
he was here for a decade.
No, Donovan McNabb, from the day he was drafted, had an open door policy with Andy Reid and Jeff Lurie. That's how they treated him, because they pandered to diva bitch babies like Donovan McNabb, who can't hold his fucking lunch down at the Super Bowl, and bitch ass Carson Wentz, who doesn't like it when it gets tough. That's what this team does. They're certainly responsible for that. Certainly, I believe that if Carson Wentz and like Frank Reich is a big part. We know that, right? Frank Reich was good cop. John DeFilippo was bad cop. But Frank Reich is well respected, which to me means that Frank Reich probably has an open door policy with Carson, but a boundary laid one. There's things you can do. There's things you can't do. There's ways you can be. There's ways you can't be. When Carson was here, what Jeff Lurie does, just like he did with Donovan McNabb. I mean, this is the Terrell Owens situation all over again. You had a star wide receiver, the first or second best in the league, depending on which person you talked to that day, wanted to be here. Could have gotten through playing with a fucking terrible quarterback that couldn't hit the broadside of a fucking barn. He was here for it. He put up 180 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fucking Super Bowl on a broken foot. And you let your diva, fucking weak-minded, just soft, wet paper bag-ass quarterback, Donovan McNabb, fuck that up because he's a prima donna. And that's the problem. So the Eagles are responsible for that, Carson becoming that. It might not have happened anywhere else. It did happen here. But you said a minute ago, Jeff Lurie decided I'm going to fire my coach and get rid of my quarterback. I don't think that's how that happened. I think that he decided to fire Doug because Carson wanted Doug gone. Mm. And I think you probably had Carson saying something along the lines of Eric Bieniemy, Arthur Smith, these younger guys that are a little bit more clout. People know who they are. They've been coordinators or something else of
yeah,
merit.
But I think it was fractured regardless of what coach they brought in.
You're not wrong. I agree with you 100%. What I'm saying is I think when the coach came in, that Carson was like, who the fuck is this guy? Like the rest of us said, who the fuck is this guy? When that happened, I think Carson was finally like, you know what? No matter what it is, get me the fuck out of here. I just don't want to be here anymore. So I don't think that Jeff came in.
They did such a bad job with the leverage that he was able to dictate where he wanted to go instead of just keeping him for a couple draft picks. It blows my mind that you can be the worst quarterback in the league and force your way off a team.
Well, when you cost $30 million in a cap hit, bro, you got a lot of leverage, and that's really where this is why. So if we're laying blame 1, 2, 3, it's going to be Jeff Lurie, Carson Wentz, Howie Roseman. We're laying blame. It's Howie Roseman is the most to blame. It's Carson Wentz is the second most to blame because the accountability lies with the man. That's you, dog. You got to look in the mirror. I don't know how you do it. I want to punch your fucking face in when I hear your voice anymore. And then third is Jeff Lurie because he's just the bankroll, dude. I know he's got clout and influence, and I know he's technically responsible for Howie Roseman's employment. But Howie Roseman's the one that fucked this up from day one, bro. How do you give a quarterback that tore his ACL before he could ever win you a big game $128 million?
Why also, if you're Lurie, do you allow Howie Roseman to make personnel decisions as far as who should dress on Sunday? That's a Lurie problem as well.
Because money talks and bullshit walks. And no coach that Jeff Lurie has ever had in his franchise has ever made or saved him the amount of money that Howie Roseman has as a fucking financial attorney. That's why. Jeff Lurie speaks one language, bro. It's money. It's if you don't have money for me, shut your fucking mouth, move on. That's Jeff. He's a billionaire, dog. They don't play with bullshit. Howie Roseman makes him hand over fist printing money. Blows his nose with $100 bills, bro. That's why Howie's still here.
How many games do the Colts win next year?
11 if Wentz is healthy all season. Same as last year.
We go 12. I'm gonna give them one game going up from Rivers, not because Rivers isn't great, because Rivers is 40.
Dude, I get that, but I'll tell you the truth. I think Carson Wentz's athleticism deficiencies now. Not that he's not still a much better athlete than fucking 40-year-old Philip Rivers. Of course he is. Yeah. But the lack of arm talent that Carson's got and the lack of awareness and just general IQ, I don't think that they're any better than they were with Philip Rivers. I think they're about the same. I don't think they're worse by any means. You got a younger guy, and he's going to obviously catch his stride and get to know the team. It's going to be better than what Philip Rivers could have been. But year one, dude, it ain't Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay, dog. There's no way. I don't see them. If Buffalo holds together and adds a couple of good young pieces in the draft, Josh Allen comes back and builds on that year, they're not competing with Buffalo, bro. Buffalo's going to win 14 or 15 games.
They still got to compete with KC. I know you hate Lamar Jackson, but they still have to compete with the Ravens. They're still going to have to compete.
Real quick before we move off of football, you said the Ravens. They're in some trouble real soon, bro.
Why is that?
If they don't teach Lamar Jackson how to be a quarterback really, really soon, it's going to be a problem.
Well, he's about to get paid, so he's going to be there. He's going to have time to learn. They're not axing him for any reason. So, I mean, I think the Ravens understand his strengths and weaknesses and understand that he's never going to be an elite thrower of the football, but they just think they can maintain winning 11, 12 games every year, have a good defense, run the football, and see what happens.
What if I told you that in 5 years' time, we know Lamar Jackson is no better than Cam Newton?
Well, he's already a better athlete, so
I'm not talking about an athlete, bro. I don't give a shit about who runs faster or jumps higher.
That's part of the quarterback position.
I don't disagree with you. That's part of it. But Cam Newton was an elite athlete in his prime. We agree, right? Very few that were better than him. I mean, he's 6'5". Cam Newton does not get hurt often. And when he gets hurt, he gets fucked up. But it doesn't happen all the time.
Lamar's going to have to worry about that, not in this contract coming up, but after this one's over. He might, if he hasn't learned really to play a high-level quarterback position, he's going to have trouble getting that next one because you can't take.
John Harbaugh still the coach in 2 years?
Yes.
You think so?
Yeah.
So if they have a first-round exit both of the next 2 seasons, you think Harbaugh survives that?
Yeah, because I think a lot of the blame is always going to be cast Lamar Jackson's way and not the coach's way because of his lack of ability to throw deep balls and out routes. So unless he learns how to do that, it's going to continue to fall on the quarterback. Harbaugh's done a great job. I think we can both agree with that.
Oh, I think John Harbaugh's a great coach. Like, I'm not going to put him like Bill Belichick, Andy Reid, Bill Walsh, but he's better than Mike Tomlin. I'd rather John Harbaugh than Mike Tomlin. He's definitely a good coach.
I agree, and it's going to fall also before it goes to the head coach on Greg Roman, who's created that offense around Lamar Jackson's ability to run the football and not pass the football. So they're going to have to change that up too. Let's switch to basketball because I watched an all-time game the other night with the Sixers, which realistically with Ben out, if Embiid doesn't have that type of game, they're not winning that game.
No shot.
He was the only one doing anything for the majority of the game until Tobias Harris woke up in the third quarter. Joel Embiid had 50 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals on something like 60% shooting.
Last time a Sixers player had 50, 15, and 5 since Wilt Chamberlain in 68.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see how many people have done that in general over the last 20 years. So this had me thinking the other night, and we talked about this a little bit off air, and I know you're going to disagree with me, but I'm watching everybody else around Joel Embiid struggle to put the ball in the basket. And I'm thinking to myself, geez, it would be great to have James Harden right now.
God, stop.
Tobias Harris.
He's a fucking Brooklyn Net, Aaron. He's done.
Which is going to bring me to another point in a second because I still think Brooklyn wins the East, and I still think they're the team that's going to get to the finals.
What the fuck are you looking at?
I'm watching them fucking crawl up the rankings real fast in the Eastern Conference, and I'm watching the Sixers
First of all, the word crawl and fast don't go together. So just for future reference, don't use those two in the same sentence.
Game by game.
Sure. So they've crawled up is one way, or they've ran fast up.
Well, it's early in the season, so that was my.
It is not. Stop it. This is a false dichotomy and a bullshit narrative that everybody in basketball is starting to create, and I'm going to use it for the Sixers, and I'm going to make my point too, and I'm going to respond to yours. It's not early in the season. We are 31 games into a 70-game season. We are goddamn near exactly halfway through this season. It's not early, bro. It's not early. So all this early horse shit and all this, Brooklyn just needs some time to figure it out. The Sixers are still almost undefeated with their starting 5 healthy. Other team in basketball.
Almost undefeated.
No other team in basketball has a better record with their starting 5 than the 76ers when healthy. Nobody. Because they've only had 1 loss with their starting 5 healthy. Now, most importantly, with your fucking bullshit short season argument, when we talk about Joel Embiid, who, by the way, might be the best Sixers game I've seen with my own 2 eyes by a Sixers player. And I saw Allen Iverson do every fucking thing he ever did here. That was unbelievable, bro.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, I'm telling you, watching that, the only thought of if he wants to be, he's the best player in the league. There's nobody that can stop him. Nobody. I keep hearing Joel Embiid can't be considered for the MVP because he misses too many games. He just doesn't play enough. He's always resting with his sore back. First of all, Doc Rivers is a fucking genius. He's not wearing out Joel Embiid's tank in the fucking regular season. Doesn't matter. He knows what it takes. LeBron James takes fucking rest days.
He hasn't. But go ahead.
Now, if I told you that right now you're looking at LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Joel Embiid for the MVP. Would you agree with those top 3?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So LeBron, we know, doesn't miss fucking basketball. It's just not a thing he does. LeBron just plays basketball. He's a fucking physical anomaly. Doesn't exist anywhere else. So we'll leave him out of this. How many games has Kevin Durant played this year?
He's probably missed the same amount as Joel.
How about double the amount that Joe's missed?
He's missed 12. He had COVID.
How about Kevin Durant has only played 19 of 32?
He's played 9.
Everybody wants me to believe that Kevin Durant, look at him, he's playing like an MVP. Why the fuck haven't I heard he hasn't played enough? Joel Embiid is a 7'2", 300-pound center.
Listen, the only reason you're not hearing it is because he's not on the level that Embiid and LeBron are playing at right now. So he's not really getting as much consideration as those guys. If it happened,
let's buy this back. Tell me again. I need you to explain to me. Fuck the rest of the Eastern Conference. I want to know what you think about help me understand how the Brooklyn Nets get past a fully healthy 76ers. Tell me how.
Because they have 4 guys that can score at any given time, and the Sixers have 1 or 1.5 guys. Yeah, Joe Harris. Joe Harris averaging 22 points a game, I think. 20 or 22 points a game. You're going to tell me that 5 years younger Joe Ingles is a score-at-will dominant scorer? Harris. Joe Harris. Is a
5 years younger Joe Ingles is what I just said. You're going to make me believe that guy is a score-at-will player?
He's been scoring 20 points a game.
James Harden is a point guard with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, and they don't play guys that play defense.
So he has wide open. So he has wide open threes all game.
What happened when the Sixers played the Nets last time? That's right, the Sixers won that game. Show me a reason other than saying to me that James Harden is going to average 18 assists a game because it's not going to happen in the playoffs because James Harden's a different player in the playoffs. I know he's done well adjusting now. We'll see how that works when it matters. Kyrie Irving has a history of being spotty and streaky in the playoffs. Kevin Durant's got health issues already, and we're only halfway through the season. Show me how it's likely that the Brooklyn Nets win.
What health issues?
What do you mean? That's one stretch of 4 games he had COVID. Where's the other 8 games he missed?
Coming off an Achilles, they rest him, but he's not hurting.
Come on, Skip. This is the argument because Kevin Durant's already an elite MVP, already been up there guy. We give him a fucking pass, and because Joel Embiid took time to work into his prime, like every other player, including Kevin Durant did, we don't give him the same benefit of the doubt. Get the fuck out of here.
You don't give that benefit to Tua.
Bro, first of all, don't you dare try to say we can compare anything in basketball to football. Entirely different. I don't give it to Tua because Tua hasn't shown it to me. I'm not giving the Brooklyn Nets the benefit of the doubt of 3 star power names going to win the East because my eyeballs, when I watch them, tell me an entirely different story.
Then you haven't watched them enough.
Of course I've watched them, bro. And again, we're talking about regular season basketball. Do you think when the Brooklyn Nets play the Boston Celtics in game 46 of the regular season,
you're telling me
up a game plan to win that game no matter what? Of course he doesn't.
Aside from Joel Embiid, who had a horrible series against the Raptors when we should have won, who do you trust on the Sixers team in the playoffs?
Do you not understand? Have you not realized that when Ben Simmons isn't on this floor, Tobias Harris' scoring suffers? Have you realized that?
He scored almost 30 points the other night.
Right, but as you said in your lead up to how that game went, he didn't get it together until late. Why?
Third quarter, yeah.
Why? Do you know why? Very simple. If you watch Sixers basketball, it's pretty fucking obvious. Ben Simmons, to be an offensive scoring threat, is a post-up ISO scorer. He has to bring his guy down in the lane. What Tobias Harris does the best is score off the dribble. What we were all promised Josh Richardson was going to be is basically who you have in Toby. Toby's best attribute, he's not a catch-and-shoot guy. He's not a dribble himself open at 3 guy. He is a mid-range isolation scorer. When you have Ben Simmons on the floor running the offense, who can get everybody in position where they belong all the time, Tobias Harris scores 25 to 30 efficiently. That's the difference.
Here's another point for you, though. One of the biggest issues that the Sixers have had over the past couple of years, and the reason we wanted to see Ben Simmons and Embiid on the same team going into the playoffs, so we didn't want to trade Simmons, is because we haven't seen them play together, both healthy, both ready to play, both with good coaches, right?
Correct.
So one of the issues with both of these guys is typically at some point in the season, one of them misses a ton of games. Somebody gets injured. Somebody gets a stomach flu. Something happens with these 2 guys where going into the playoffs, the end of the season, they're dropping in rankings. They go into the playoffs. Someone's just not healthy. And the one year that they were healthy, they got to face the Toronto Raptors. And Joel Embiid, for whatever reason, I guess, ends up with some type of stomach flu. And that seems to be a consistent theme with the 76ers team.
I told you last year, bro, this team quit on Brett Brown. I told you. I'm not going to say Joel
last
Embiid
year
faked
Simmons
an
was
illness.
out for the playoffs, though.
I'm not going to say Joel Embiid faked an illness or Ben Simmons faked an injury or they legitimately quit, but they did not give maximum effort. That's not what they did for Brett Brown. He didn't command that level of respect. You are trying to base the outcome of an experiment on the factors of an entirely different experiment. You can't predict the outcome of this Sixers roster with this Sixers coaching staff using last year's roster and last year's coaching staff. It's entirely different. Everything is different. The only piece that's the same are your two superstar players, your third primary scorer, and your fucking owner. And Elton Brand is still a part of you. Everything else is different. The message, the culture, the practice, everything's different. What did Doc Rivers never have in LA? Blake Griffin was a superstar for a minute, right? We now know that Blake Griffin wasn't even the level of superstar Ben could reach. Blake Griffin had a 4-year window of big dunks catching alley-oops from Chris Paul, and that was the end, right?
They had a great team. They had Chris Paul, yeah.
Chris Paul was an elite point guard. Might still be elite at this level.
He's still elite. He needs to be talked about a little bit. As you can talk about talent and who's the best player. Chris Paul's not the best player in the league. He is easily one of the top 5 most valuable guys.
Oh, he's fucking incredible at 36 years old. Doc Rivers never had the youth with the balance that exists here. Doc Rivers never had Daryl Morey. Now, we both agree, right? I have to think, I'm going to assume here, but this team isn't the team that's going to be in the playoffs. There's very clearly some moves to be made.
It can't be.
Well,
they have to make it.
It can't be if your goal is a chip. If you're trying to win the East, you could find a way if everything goes right. But one fucking thing goes awry, this roster doesn't cut it. So you have to, and again, I said to you before we came on, bro, I don't disagree with you that James Harden's scoring would be fucking tremendous to have here. And if I could have made it happen with Tobias Harris and kept Ben Simmons here to be the guy that kind of directs traffic and have his level of defense to cover up for the fucking awful defense James Harden plays, I would have been way more interested in that trade. Getting rid of Toby and some younger pieces. Maxey could have been in it. Matisse could have been in it. I'd have given up a lot more. But I need Ben if I'm bringing Harden. Now, if Ben's my only piece and you're telling me I'm getting Zach LaVine or Bradley Beal, right fucking now, I'll drive him to the airport myself. Not James Harden. Not a 32-year-old guard who's bitter, has a gigantic mountain of a chip on his shoulder, just wants to do whatever it takes. Fuck everybody, I'm about me. I'd rather have the younger guy. Keep the nucleus young so we can have a 10-year window of keeping Joel Embiid playing basketball. If it's all on Joe because you got 2 years out of a 32-year-old guard, Joe's not going to have more than 4 years in him. Just not going to happen. You got to plan out for the future. That's why the James Harden and Ben Simmons trade didn't work. I don't disagree. The scoring wouldn't be. Dude, again, you say it all the time. Imagine Joel Embiid and James Harden. And my brain says, can I go back 5 years and do it then? Because I would do it in a heartbeat.
So the Sixers need a 3-and-D guy or some type of stretch forward. Some type of stretch forward that can bang inside a little bit. What pieces, if you're Daryl Morey, do you start dangling on the trade block to get what you need to try to compete for a championship this year, especially looking out west, seeing Utah just crushing everybody and knowing that they're probably not going to be the same team in the playoffs, and seeing the Lakers without Anthony Davis for an extended period of time with what might be a lingering injury? Don't you have to feel like this year right now is your opportunity to maybe sneak one in almost in the same way the Raptors did the other year?
I don't think so, bro. I think that you're on the precipice of being able to build something. You just got to figure out how to complete it. I think that's the problem. I think if you had the ability to, I believe Seth Curry's got value in this league. I don't think Danny Green's got much anymore, but I think Seth Curry's got value in this league. Not a ton, and I don't mean like value like draft capital, but you can probably pull out a guy like an Allen Crabbe, right? Like a dude that you could count on 38 to 40% from three, but his job is defense. That's his job. That's what he's here for. Matisse Thybulle with a better shot. That's really what you're after. If you can get that guy for Seth Curry and you yank Seth Curry out of the starting lineup, replace Danny Green with him and throw Ty Maxey in at your two guard to start, or Shake or fucking Isaac, who cares? Who gives a shit at that point?
Yeah,
you need to either bring in Bradley Beal or Zach LaVine for Tobias Harris or Ben Simmons and get that another big-ass score, or you've got to fill out that bench, bro, and you're 2 players away.
Yeah.
You need Bielitsa from the Kings, and you need a 3-and-D. You need whoever Danny Green is 10 years ago right now. That's what you need.
Yeah, I was watching, just to point this out, I was watching Zach LaVine very closely the other night, and he had a very rough start to the game. And Matisse actually was denying him the ball for most of the first half. Like, he didn't even want him to touch it. And Zach LaVine was able to get open a couple times, get to the free throw line on a bad shooting percentage. And he had a couple shots and even layups that just went in and out that just weren't falling for him. And then all of a sudden, third, fourth quarter comes around, and you can't stop Zach LaVine. He was the reason that, they came back. They almost won. They were within 5 to 7 points almost the whole game. So to see a guy start like that, get blanketed, get denied the ball, and then go off the way he started going off in the fourth quarter where just nobody could do anything about him, I'm like, man, you have to remember, just give me some credit, bro. Last year I was talking about the kid, and everybody's like, oh, fucking Zach LaVine, no fucking Zach LaVine. And I'm like, the Bulls might make the playoffs next year. They have a really good roster. I think they will make the playoffs. What did you think?
You were 1/3 right. Their roster's not great. They might not make the playoffs, but Zach LaVine is fucking incredible.
They're out Markkanen and Bobby Portis. Those are 2 of their big starters. So I'm not saying they would be the 5 seed, but I think they would be the 7 or 8 seed in the East. And they've been playing without those guys. But Zach LaVine, watching him last night, I was like, man, he had a real rough first half, and then he almost fucking won them the game. I mean, if Embiid doesn't score 50 points, Zach LaVine wins the Bulls that game.
Oh, 100%. I mean, listen, dude, Zach LaVine is probably he's only like 24, 25, isn't he? He's young, isn't he?
Yeah.
He might be the best under 25 player in the league right now. I mean, Luka's obviously up there, and you've got other guys.
Yeah.
What Zach LaVine provides for that team, and the fact that this dude really does. I mean, he decides he pots 25 in the fourth quarter whenever he wants to. That's just what he does. When he's ready to go, he just does it. Now, that switch is concerning to me because that's the James Harden switch. Some days I'm an MVP, and some days, I just didn't feel like playing as hard, which is why Bradley Beal.
That's not what I saw, though. That's not what I saw from LaVine, though. But go ahead.
Oh, I don't disagree. I think against the Sixers, he just got locked the fuck up. I mean, Matisse Thybulle really is an elite level defender.
Yeah,
I'll say this: Matisse Thybulle is going to win a championship at some point in his career. It might not be with Philadelphia. It might be as an add-on piece when he's 31 years old because all he does is play defense. He may have a similar back-end career arc to Andre Iguodala. The Golden State years, 33, 34, 35, 36, where he's useful, he matters. I see that out of Matisse Thybulle in the later years of his career. I hope he figures the fuck out here because I need him to start scoring.
If he could shoot the 3 at 37%, it's a whole different.
I think 32 with Matisse right now. The motherfucker can't hit the broadside of a barn.
And this is my problem with Maxey. It's like Maxey goes on, and this might change, but it's the same player he was in college. He goes on streaks where it's like he looks unstoppable. His floater's dropping. He's getting to the rim. He's getting fouled. He might hit a 3. And then you have games like the other night, and I'm watching him. I'm like, man, he's shooting a 3, and he's not even hitting the rim. I mean, he's hitting the backboard. And it's going. He doesn't look like he's he's super raw. And
that was the knock on him. That's the reason why he fell down so low. And I believe truly, if we had a tournament and he had a tournament to play through, that team would have went far. And he would have learned a lot from that tournament. I think he'd be further along than he is right now. But the Rona fucked us all this year, so he's just another victim. I think his problem is he doesn't know his role. The Shake is your 6th man, right? When Shake's on the floor, he's your scorer. When Joe's on the floor, he's your scorer. When Toby's on the floor, he's your scorer. He's like the 6th or 7th option. So I think what's happening is Doc is trying to find out what he's got, where, how, and why. Can he be a distributor and be a secondary option on a second unit where it's him and Shake as the 1 and 2? Is that possible? Can he break into the starting lineup and play with the starting 5? Are there things that they can work around? I think that's what we have not seen what the Sixers team plays like come the playoffs. I'm telling you right now, regardless of the roster changes, Doc's play calls, the defensive scheme, this is not playoff basketball, guys. Everybody forgets this. We are now probably 15 or 20 years entrenched in a league where you hide your hand for 80 games. You don't show exactly what you got. That's why you have series where 7 seeds win 2 games against the 2 seed, because shit comes out that you didn't have. I think Shake is a product of a system that's trying to figure itself out right now. Or Ty Maxey is a product of a system trying to figure itself out right now. Shake has more time and he's more comfortable with the team and the players. I think that Shake is probably what you see Ty being. Your end goal, right? Like if you could land a Zach LaVine, but it cost you getting rid of Seth Curry and Ty Maxey and all these other guys, if you could get Shake as your starting 2 with a Zach LaVine in the lineup where Shake was a secondary scorer and Zach LaVine would be your primary with Joe, that's where you want Shake to end up, and Ty would be your guy that becomes Shake. He'd be your 6th man. But again, dude, he's a raw kid. They said this in the draft, man. Everybody said this when we got him. Daryl Morey said it. The reason why he fell is because he needs a fuckload of work to really polish and perfect his game. But you can see the raw talents there, and the kid wants it, man. That's the shit you can't replace. He just wants it.
The second unit is going to have trouble, especially when Shake's not out there, because the first unit already sometimes, even with Curry and Green, have trouble spreading the floor and hitting threes, especially when Ben Simmons isn't out there. And then you get the second unit, and Maxey's playing your 2, and he can't shoot the 3. And then Korkmaz is great some games, and he's horrible other games and can't hit anything. And then Dwight Howard, obviously is not shooting at all. He's just kind of standing in the middle. And then Matisse is there somewhere. So it's like there's just no space on the floor for Shake and Maxey to even operate if they wanted to. And you need either a couple more pieces to shore up the second unit and guys that can hit threes, or you really need to move one piece out of your starting lineup, dangle them, and try to go get, like, just for instance, DeMar DeRozan. The Spurs are in a complete rebuild. They have a couple really great guards. DeMar DeRozan's 31 years old. Do you dangle some pieces to bring in a guy that can play defense and put up 30 points on any given night? He's not going to be able to do that in Popovich's system, but it's some guy that could be available given the right tag.
It's funny you mentioned DeMar, because the rumor that's going around the radio waves here in Philadelphia is Kyle Lowry. And I don't know how I feel about Kyle Lowry. I think that if Kyle Lowry is going to cost me Matisse and a couple of picks because he's old and they want to get him out of there, Kyle Lowry's
they're not going to miss
Harris. There's no way.
Yeah, well, no, they wouldn't do. The Raptors wouldn't make a Sixers that type of offer, and the reason that he's expendable over there is because Fred VanVleet, all of a sudden undrafted, has become exactly what Kyle Lowry was at any given time. And Kyle Lowry would be great here because he can shoot the 3 and he can lock you up defensively. I think it would be a great fit.
But it's still easy to make Kyle Lowry your point guard and move Ben to the 4.
Yeah,
and that, see, this is what's great about Ben, like LeBron was, man. All those years, all those different teams, LeBron could play the 1, the 3, or the 4. Ben's got that capability, and if you bring in a guy like Kyle Lowry, I mean, DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine guys that are ISO ball handlers, Bradley Beals, not so much, but Kyle Lowry can distribute. I think I don't want to give up what I would imagine Toronto would want, but I think it's intriguing, dude. That's the type of guy I can see them bringing in. I know that the obvious names are the LaVines, the Beals, the Hardens, they're the obvious names, but I could see them targeting. I mean, we've watched Darren Moore do this how many times, bro? Would you be surprised if it was like George Hill? You know what I mean? I wouldn't be surprised if he got that kind of player in here, a bench guy and a guy to slot in the starting lineup.
Yeah, they need it, especially when one of their guys is on the bench. When either Embiid or Simmons is out, it is sometimes a difficult game to watch. It's much better watching. I'm glad they pulled it out against the Bulls. I thought it was going to be a little bit of a trap game. If Embiid scores 40 that game, they probably don't win. Any closing thoughts on the Wentz situation, the Eagles, or the Sixers in general? And I'm going to go on record. I think right now, and I've been high on LeBron for most of the year. Joel Embiid is the best player. I'm not sure if he's more valuable to his team right now than LeBron is, but I think he is the best player in the NBA.
So you say you're hedging your bets that LeBron's going to win the MVP?
Depending how this stretch goes without Anthony Davis over the next 8 games.
No chance. They'll never give him another MVP. He's getting too close to Michael and all of his numbers. They can't do that.
So listen, they were saying last night, real quick before you continue your point, this dude has not won an MVP in 7 years.
Yeah.
And he's been every year when the year ends, we go, oh, I know we said it was Giannis, but I think LeBron was the best player. I know we said it was Steph Curry, but I think LeBron's. I know, and it's a new guy when he ends. When we look at LeBron's totality of awards, statistics, we're gonna look at this stretch and his numbers and their wins and their championships from what is it, 15 or 16 to now, and be like, how the fuck does LeBron only have 4 MVPs? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
The league doesn't like giving him the MVP, so it's not going to be him. Joel Embiid is definitely the best player in the league right now, saying he stays healthy. I agree with you, point wholly. Football, real quick, back to fuck Carson Wentz. I don't care. Trevor Lawrence is Matt Leinart. I've said it again and again. I'll keep saying it. Trevor Lawrence is not going to be a good quarterback in this league with a terrible franchise. I will caveat that if some crazy shit happens and he goes to a decent franchise, he could be a good quarterback. Tua still blows. I don't care what Aaron says. I don't know why he loves him so much. Ryan Fitzpatrick is the better quarterback, and the fact that Miami picked Tua over Ryan Fitzpatrick just makes him dumb. Basketball, dude, listen, the Sixers are the best team in the East. The Brooklyn Nets have not shown me anything to prove me otherwise. I know the firepower in the names. I know the star power. I know they got 3 guys that could score 45. I don't give a fuck. None of them play defense. That is what wins championships still to this day. Defense wins championships. The only way that LeBron James was able to slay the 3-headed dragon of Golden State was on an incredible chase down block, because defense wins championships. The Sixers are built better. They have a better coach. They're built better. I have no belief in Mike D'Antoni or Steve Nash. The Brooklyn Nets are going nowhere. James Harden will spend another 4 years on another team that's overrated. Kevin Durant will never see a trophy again. They'll never make it out of the East as long as they continue the process they are with what they're doing. Go Sixers, and hopefully we win against the Raptors tonight, and maybe it shows us that we need Kyle Lowry.
So real quick, too, Adam Schefter doesn't typically report stuff that he hasn't heard, doesn't think is true, or he has inside sources on. We found that out because we kind of went at him about the Wentz situation and wanted to get out of there, even though Wentz didn't say anything, and Schefter ended up being right. Schefter has also said that Hurts wouldn't be a lock to start if Wentz got traded. Philly could explore QB options through free agency or the draft, which is kind of interesting because we haven't talked about free agency QBs at all. And it would kind of make sense if they weren't completely sold on Hurts to sign one of these mid-level starting QBs just to go in this year, win or lose some games behind a bad offensive line, help Jalen Hurts a little bit, and kind of see where it goes if they're going to be in the same spot next year. We'll talk about that on Tuesday.
Who could possibly look through the quarterback class of free agents, and I want to do this. I want you to pick your 2 top guys, 1 and 2, and
Best
why.
Fits? Best Fits. Best Fits, right?
What's Fits?
Best Fits? The best fit.
Yeah. Like your 2 top guys. Like if you were bringing in a quarterback that you knew was going to start over Hurts, you're bringing in a vet to help him along. Who are your 2 top guys in the free agent market? I'll get mine, you get yours, and we'll compare notes.
I know you're going to have Fitzpatrick there. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.